Good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you so much for coming. No, I am not Shelly Palmer, but I did wear a black shirt in his honor. And those of you that know him and you see what he's dressed in, you'll kind of get that. I am Mike Donnelly. I'm with the Association of National Advertisers, the ANA, for anyone that may not know us. And in just a few minutes, I want to tell you what we're seeing in the marketplace and a little bit about what we're doing about it. Over the past year, we've watched marketers wrestle with one of the biggest inflection points our industry has ever faced. AI isn't just another technological trend, it's a transformative capability that's reshaping how we discover insights, create content, and optimize every single aspect of marketing performance. And with nearly $100 billion in strategic investments in the last year, and that doesn't include the infrastructure, CapEx, R&D, it's at the scale of some national economies at this point. We're starting to lose perspective of just how much money is flowing into this. AI is not just changing how marketing works, it's reshaping the economic systems marketers operate within. So the greatest barrier we're seeing certainly isn't technology. It's leadership, training, data, taxonomies, governance, and organizational-based territorial disputes, sadly, at times. And in many cases, it's hesitation. Too many are waiting for a perfect roadmap when really what's needed is clear and focused, decisive action, like that which we're going to hear from some of the marketers that are going to grace this stage in the next 70 minutes or so. The future belongs to the marketers who are activating and scaling now and are adapting faster than their competitors, and it won't wait for anyone. We're all experiencing a relative horse race, and the clear winners a year from now will be crystal clear. So you're probably asking, why is he up here? Because ANA is the world's largest, most influential brand marketer collective. We're a growth catalyst for your business and you and our industry. Our membership includes 20,000 plus brands and over 500 marketing service providers. That's everything from publishers to platforms to data providers. We built a community to address big, significant challenges and opportunities like those which we are looking at right now. And we've been instrumental in working with all parts of the industry in doing this in the past. Some of those have resulted in the creation of the Digital Advertising Alliance, the Trustworthy Accountability Group, the National Advertising Review Council, AdID, and you may or may not know, we represent the advertisers who hire union talent to negotiate terms with SAG-AFTRA. And one of our very latest is Aquila, a cross-media measurement solution built for marketers by marketers. It's led by Bill Tucker, and Tina and Jed are all somewhere here in the audience, and I'm sure they'd love to tell you more. My point is, we've been doing this for a long time, addressing industry organizational opportunities. And we certainly don't do it alone. We actually convene the right people to do so. And why do we do it? Because when brands win, everyone in our ecosystem wins. And with so many of you in this room, we've built the community to do so. Let's call it the original neural networks. Our board is made up of 38 of the most prominent CMOs in the industry, and they include both Essie and Shakir, both of which will be up on the stage very soon, and Gulan Benji, the Global Chief Marketing Officer of Mars, who I know is here somewhere in the audience. I'd like to very publicly thank each of the three of them for being on our board, as well as, again, many of you for being part of this community that helps us convene and address some of the biggest challenges in the business. Gulan specifically is our co-chair of our CMO Growth Council, Data Technology and Measurement Working Group. So thank you so much to Mars. There we go. I see a wave back here. Thank you. Great to see you. Here's a quick snap. Well, actually, let me just tell you real quick here. Sorry, too many pages, too much to say in too little time. Our growth agenda, which you see on the slide, actually it was up there. Maybe we can get that slide back up, guys? All right, let's get off of Shelly's slides. Let's just go ahead and move on because time is of the essence here. I lead our technology practice. We're focused on three primary things: AI adoption and accountability, MarTech simplification and performance, and in doing so, we're in the business of trying to empower marketers to win. And again, it takes the entire community, many of which are in this room, that have been at this for decades, solving industry challenges. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I won't waste any more of your time other than to tell you together, we need to continue to provoke the crucial conversations about technology, ethics, law, organizational challenges and processes to really get big things done. That's what we enjoy, that's what we do, and it's the only way we can do it is all together. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being part of this incredible original neural network community. And please welcome to the stage, Mr. Shelly Palmer.
Good morning. Good morning. Seriously, guys. Seats down in front. Anyway, hi everybody, I'm Shelly Palmer. Thank you so much for getting up this early in the morning. I really appreciate it. Hopefully the coffee was pretty good. What I'm gonna do is talk to you about agents and agency and your Agentic 2026, and I'm gonna go really fast. And everyone in this room has heard me talk a million times. So this is what I'm thinking about right now, what I'm focused on right now, what I'd like you to focus on right now. You've seen this slide. It's my favorite slide. I've been using it for 3 years. AI is not what we're going to talk about today because the industry isn't thinking about AI anymore. We're all looking at AGI as a North Star, artificial general intelligence. And the problem is it is undefined in the extreme. No one has a good definition and no one agrees on the definition. Some people say that it's when an AI could do human level work. Sam Altman says it's when it can do economically useful work. There's a good definition if it could learn one thing and apply that knowledge to something else. Don't know. But the administration of the United States in July put out an AI action plan that fully militarized AI. And they say we are going to beat the Chinese to AGI. What does that mean? I don't know. They don't define AGI either. But you can understand that this is a fully militarized process right now. There's over $3 trillion with a T earmarked to AI. We are looking at power plants all over the world that are inadequate. And so you've got Microsoft putting $1 billion into spinning up 3 Mile Island reactor number 2. Facebook has a couple, or Meta has a couple RFPs out for nuclear power plants. You'll hear the term small modular reactor and molten salt reactor. These are small nuclear reactors that people are going to use to power data centers. We're in a new world. So, and if you believe we're going to get to AGI and beat the Chinese there, whenever that is, you have to believe we're getting to ASI, artificial superintelligence, which no one understands at all. That's when AI is way smarter than us. So let's go to the end state. There's a message that shows up in your smartphone. It says, I've detected an anomaly in market 26. Recent weather events have resulted in supply chain issues that must be addressed. I've adjusted our marketing investments and I've rerouted our supply chain logistics. I'm going to report back in 14 days with results and next steps. Who gets this text? It obviously came from AI, but who does it go to? Let's go to the CMO, CFO, CTO, CIO, chairman of the board, board of directors, investors, and other AI. This is the end state. If you believe we're getting to AGI, AGI is going to do this. What is the role of the marketer when this is the message that comes out of the system? When's this going to happen? Beginning of 2025, you could throw a PowerPoint presentation or you could throw a Excel spreadsheet into any one of the large language models, GPT 4.5. It was going to do at least 5 hours worth of work in about 5 minutes. Last week, Christmas vacation, I set up Claude Code and Codex from OpenAI, Claude Code from Anthropic, and I had it code for 11 hours nonstop, and it did over 5 months worth of work for a team of 3 to 5 people, about $1.5 million to $2 million worth of work in 11 hours. That's where we are now. I thought that was going to be the middle of 2026. It's the beginning of 2026. This curve is improperly drawn. It just isn't. The top 5 models, you know who they are. ChatGPT won the Kleenex and Band-Aid award. That is what AI is now. ChatGPT. Nobody Geminis, nobody Copilots, nobody Claudes. You chat, and when you chat, you mean ChatGPT, but this is fictitious because while they do have the most number of monthly active users right now for AI chat clients, Google won its lawsuit against the DOJ, and Gemini now powers Chrome. Chrome-powered Gemini is AI, full stop. So we're going to talk about what that means because Google's got 3.5 billion daily active users. That's 2/3 of the internet users in the world. So if you wonder who's going to win, who's going to be Google for AI, I'm not getting paid by Google, but I'm telling you Google's going to be Google for AI, for sure. So These are the models, but we're in an agentic world. Everyone's talking about agents. Agent this, agent that, agent the next thing. So in order to have an agent, you need a harness. So what are the top 5 harnesses? And the answer is, there aren't top 5 harnesses because you have to write them yourself. So I got some new vocabulary for you, and I want to start talking about the way you as a marketer are going to think about the future. The first thing you're going to think about is the model itself is raw intelligence. That's just what it is. It doesn't do anything else. It's not customized to you. It's raw intelligence. It has a vague understanding of everything ever printed on the public web or written on the public web or shown on the internet. The harness is everything that goes into making it work with your agent. And that thing together, your model and your harness, make a system. And agents make systems appear to act autonomously. This is the way that this whole thing has to come together. And you as a marketer cannot in any way accept just a drag and drop and say, well, this is going to work. Everybody makes one of these. This happens to be OpenAI's version of it. You have an agent, you pull the agent into the thing, you low code them together, you go, I just built an agentic workflow. Have you? Here's what you have to look at. Do you have a context profile? Does that agent know who it is? What's its identity? Does it have a pre-prompting guardrails? Does it have boundaries? Have you made those boundaries real? Does it have skills? Skills are a new kind of formatted way to tell agents what to do. And so, do you have a control over your skills? The agents themselves are going to execute. So who's made this agent for you? Is this the Google's own Gmail reading agent? That's going to always read Gmail and be perfect. Whose summarizing agent is it though? There's 50 guys that are making that. So do you have one that is absolutely perfect? Then evals. You must score everything. Not only do you score the agent's capability, you score the context profile. You score the pre-prompt. You score the guardrails. You score the skills. You score the agent's performance, and then you revise and you repeat. And this never, ever stops. If you do stop it, or if you don't do this, I am telling you, nothing good is going to happen. Nothing good. If you don't have proper corporate governance, this is a loose model of how one would govern a corporate AI installation. We can go over that in great detail, but if you don't have a good manifesto or statement of principles, if you don't have a good learning and development system, if you don't have a good review board, if you don't have a business operations system that is in place and set up to govern quickly, you are going to be in serious trouble. And what does this really all boil down to? AI ops. So AI ops, agent access control management. You can't have an agent that has higher security clearance than you do, or maybe you can. And if that's okay, then it's okay. Lifecycle management. Got 5,000 agents that have been written for the organization. 2,000 of them have been used one time. How long should they live? 50 to 150 models are going to my model garden. They drift. They need to be monitored. Who's on top of that? And does everything that we're doing, pardon me, does it match our ethics and compliance? Are we doing AI responsibly? That's the corporate side. Now let's talk about marketing to bots. I've got consumers, and yep, there's an agent for that. People are going to be using agents. What do they look like? Early indications are that it'll look something like this. This is ACP, Agentic Commerce Protocol from OpenAI. And when you're in a chat and you are chatting and your Shopify shop shows up organically, or your Etsy shop shows up organically, right now there's a buy button inside of ChatGPT. So that's interesting. What is that really going to mean for us? Well, there's a couple things. We're in this transition from SEO to AEO. What is AEO? Answer engine optimization. McKinsey calls it GEO, generative engine optimization. I don't care for that because it's too technologically specific. One way or the other, we're at the end of 10 blue links. You can search in ChatGPT. Google knows you can search. They give you AI overviews. Highly emotionally satisfying. 0 click. If you get what you need, you don't click on anything. So web traffic has taken a big hit. And if you like AI overviews, you got to love AI mode because that's something else altogether. That is totally 0 click, and it really gives you some understanding of what the future is going to look like. Do we need websites? If everything shows up and it gets a picture and it gives me a buy button, what do I really need? Then how do I get share of prompt? Share of mind equals share of wallet. Now share of prompt equals share of mind equals share of wallet, or is it share of mind equals share of prompt equals share of wallet? One way or the other, you got to get in the consumer's head and they got to prompt about you. And when they do that, what are you going to do? How is your app going to show up? How are you going to show up in the context windows of the various chat clients? Right now, ChatGPT has a way for you to put an app inside of there called Apps SDK. and it works pretty well. If you go further than that, you've got agentic commerce optimization. What? Agentic commerce optimization? This is Atlas. Many of you have seen it. This is OpenAI's browser. It is ChatGPT mashed up with Chromium. Here I asked, I need this video to play, folks. There we go. This video is playing. Good. Okay. So I said to ChatGPT inside of Atlas, I want to cook enchiladas for 10 people tonight. Find me the best Tex-Mex recipe. A super easy ChatGPT chat. I did it, and it's giving me the recipe. Okay, because it's Atlas and it's agentic, I said, I'm going to give it a new prompt, which is use Instacart to go to Fairway Market and buy me the protein and the produce. I have most of the ingredients. And I'm always logged into Instacart because I'm that lazy. So I say to it, yes, I am. Go. And now it's going to open up Instacart, and Instacart is going to go to Fairway Market. This looks like, and in fact is, robotic process automation, RPA. We've seen it for years. Is your site ready for RPA? Is your site ready for an agent to come? It's going to go right to Fairway because it finds it in Instacart. It's going to click on it. Now it's going to go looking for the chicken. It's going to go figure out what chicken to buy. But how does it figure that out? Is it inventory levels? Is it key money? Is it retail media money? Who's paying who to get that choice made? Did OpenAI make that choice? Did Fairway make that choice? Did Instacart make that choice? These are unbranded. Right? This is just an onion. It's a generic piece of produce. You have no way of understanding what's what or who's who. The next thing it's going to do is it's going to go try to get me the spices because I tell it I needed to get spices. And this is where it gets really interesting. Who owns this data? How did this get done? There are so many new revenue streams you as marketers need to think about. How are you going to get your stuff to show up in this environment? Now, this is happening where it's clicking, and it's this kind of a parlor trick, not a paradigm shift. When this really works in the real world, when this evolves, it's going to pick McCormick, the name I know, or Bowl and Basket, or the store brand, by what fiat? Who's going to tell it how to do that? Who's going to own that data? Who's going to pay for it? Every place you see on here that you could figure out someone has to get paid, you have an opportunity. Hey, a picture didn't show up. Wait a minute. Did that cause that not to get chosen? Because that's their store brand. And here's the killer. This is the checkout. Watch where it goes. Fairway gets it. Instacart gets it. OMG. OpenAI gets it. Who has the best picture of me right now? It knows I'm having a party. It knows I want enchilada. It knows everything about this transaction. I don't usually buy one day's groceries at a time or one meal's groceries at a time. Don't. Look what OpenAI gets. Are they paying you for that data? Are you paying them for that data? We got some real conversations to have. This is what I'm focused on in 2026. It's really straightforward. SEO to AEO or GEO, that's got to have your undivided attention. Agentic commerce optimization. Is your whole world set up so that bots can understand it? And by the way, do you want it to be? That's because there's a yes and there's a no to this. Share a prompt, however you define it. You must understand, every marketer in this room must understand the new standards, MCP, Model Context Protocol, ACP, Agentic Commerce Protocol, AdCP, Ad Context Protocol, skills. You need to know what they are. If these sound new, they are new. You need to know them. The workflow and governance of your agents is critical, and you must now indulge me for the next 2 minutes. The number one thing every marketer in this room, in fact, in the world is going to deal with, in fact, what the whole world is going to deal with, is defaulting to distrust. This is the year. You're looking at a picture of the Brooklyn Bridge at 12:01 a.m. New Year's Day 2026. There are thousands and thousands of people lined up there to see fireworks. Why? Because a ton of social media was created for pre-New Year's Eve. It went viral in the extreme. There's going to be a massive fireworks display at the Brooklyn Bridge on New Year's Eve. Only one problem. It was all nonsense. This is a video that is taken at about 5 after 12 on New Year's Day. You see the thousands of people, and that's the Brooklyn Bridge. There's no way in the world that we can default to trust. Everyone in this room is defaulted to trust right now. You trust each other. No one's going to beat you up. As if it's 3 o'clock in the morning, you're in a dark alley, every hair in the back of your neck is standing up. You're freaked out, like you're on alert. That's a very high energy state. In this room, everyone's in a pretty low energy state. You're trusting everyone around you and everything around you. It's the default. There is not one thing you are going to see in 2026 and beyond that you can trust. Nothing. Not a video, not a piece of audio, nothing. How are you as a marketer going to deal with a world where trust is now the number one currency in the world? Your brand equals trust. That's what a brand basically is. Trust. It tells me what to expect. You're the stewards of that trust, and you will be trading in trust because everyone in the world is going to figure out how to default to distrust very, very soon. With that, I want to thank you all for coming, and I want to tell you the last thing, get your hands on keyboard every day. I don't care what you do with it, get your hands on keyboard. You need to lead from the front, and this is a leadership challenge. It is in no way, and I mean in no way, a technical challenge. New tech's going to show up every morning. You're going to make the difference. Thank you so very much. I'd like to introduce my good friend Michael Kassan for our next panel. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Doctor. I don't need that. How'd all these people get in our room? Wait a minute, what's going on here? Welcome and good morning. And Lisa and Susie, thank you for joining me. And we're going to dive right in because we've got a packed schedule this morning and appreciate a packed house as well. Lisa, iHeart's recent human consumer study has revealed some striking insights about digital fatigue. What surprised you most about how consumers are pushing back against that algorithm and that control that that algorithm can really exert over their lives?
Yeah, I think Shelley just laid incredible groundwork on the world of AI and what's happening. And at iHeart, because we're talking to consumers all day, every day, we have incredible access. In October, we did a study called The Human Consumer, and the thing that rose to the top most is AI, and that AI fatigue, the algorithmic fatigue. And so while we're all using AI to benefit ourselves, 70% of consumers are using AI, but 90% say they want their media from a human. And so all of that data that came back was like distrust, very fatigued on the algorithm, depression around social, all of the things that we know and expect led us to really lean in and create the guaranteed human promise that iHeart has, which is all of our content is going to be from a guaranteed human. And that was from a very intentional from a consumer standpoint, but the reaction we have gotten from brands and CMOs has been phenomenal. And that's what all the brands are leaning into.
It's so interesting, Lisa, because I was fortunate to spend some time chatting with Rashad Tabakawala yesterday, and obviously he doesn't need, you don't even need to say anything beyond Rashad. He's kind of like Elvis. It's a one word kind of notification.
But his whole,
But he said something, we're talking about AI and all of the applications. He said, Michael, you can't lose sight of HI. Human intelligence.
Right. And he's been saying that.
And he's been saying that, but I hadn't heard it from him directly. And I think it's so true because it's a critical element here. And, I learned this as well from something I heard Jensen Huang say last year about AI. And from an NVIDIA standpoint, obviously, when he talks, it's kind of like E.F. Hutton. When he speaks, people listen. He said something which reminded me of Meghan Trainor and that great song, It's All About the Bass. What he reminded me was it's all about the prompt.
Yep.
And this is what we were talking backstage, Susie. I mean, this is serving it up.
Yeah, it is all about the prompts because I think, one, I look back in, the early days of my career where we always said from a creative brief perspective, it's all about the input to equal the output. And I think about AI in this regard. When the research was done from an iHeart perspective, I 100% agree. The guaranteed human piece, if I take it and I link it back to sports, one, the reason why sports is so incredibly important right now, we talk about it from an AI proof perspective, it's because you can't find another place that feels more passion and community and so authentic. That's why people gravitate to it. We say it's AI proof, but it's also AI enabled. And what we find very often is that people want AI to be there. They want it to be invisible. Well, that means then you got to make sure from the prompt perspective is you got to ensure that you're actually putting the right prompts and the right information in. It's all about what you want to get out of it, but you can't let the humanity be lost Because if you left the humanity to be lost, then you're not going to get the authenticity out of it. And as soon as you lose the authenticity or the humanity of it, the community and the human and the consumer is going to back away. And I think we're seeing that more and more, and we've got to be really, really careful. And that's why I think from a marketer's perspective, we got to embrace it, we got to understand it, we got to make sure that we're using it, but we got to make sure that we're also being very judicial about how we apply it and be very surgical as far as what we do.
And Susie, look, you've been CMO at Ford and at eBay, massive brands, global, obviously, in nature. You know this from a marketer's perspective. Lisa, you know it from a publisher's perspective. Trust is the hardest thing to build in the industry. I mean, there's nothing more important with your consumer, with your partners. This is the place where I think the human side of this, I mean, I'm sure I'm not unlike anybody else. I don't know what the hell I'm looking at anymore. If it's, is this real or is this AI? And that human guarantee means a lot.
Yeah, and that's why brands are leaning into the live element, sports or concerts, events, but also from radio personalities or just bigger personalities out there like Gronk, Edelman, Jay Shetty, like really wanting to surround those individuals across all platforms and the engagement that they have there, because there's that trust factor to that.
So Susie, again, coming from your perspective now, being back on the agency side and focusing through the lens of sports, which, to your point, tell me what's more important than sports and marketing and media and advertising today. I don't know what it would be. So it's certainly, I don't know who number 2 is, but I know number 1 is certainly sports. When you're speaking to your partners and your clients now and partners, what's the 3 o'clock in the morning wake-up call that CMOs are facing right now as it relates to this topic, but in general? I mean, I know that's a riff, and even with a limited time, you could spend the rest of our session.
Oh, no, there's a lot.
Yeah, what woke you up at 3 o'clock in the morning? Anybody want to jump in here?
Yeah. I mean, look, I think the first and foremost thing is that I think CMOs are struggling with the fact of, number one, they're at the center of pretty much every conversation that's happening inside the company. And they're sitting at the C-suite table that's being asked of what's the return on every dollar that's being spent. And, look, if I take my previous life, if you look at, I think in the day and age of where people looked and said sports was sponsorships, it's not sponsorships. You're looking at your entire portfolio of money that you're spending. You've got sponsorships, you've got events, you've got influencers, you've got talent, you've got media. All of a sudden, your entire marketing budget now is probably 50 to 60% of your dollars are being spent in sports. Now, my previous life, they could have been 70 to 75. Now, part of that was because I was putting product on a track, but that all of a sudden raises the bar as far as the expectations of not just what your ROI is on a TV spot or a sponsorship, it's what is that delivering back to my business outcomes?
Yeah, no, that's...
So if you can't answer that question, there's a real challenge.
Well, and the truth is, Lisa, when you're meeting with clients and partners, agency or brands direct, and I give credit to Andrea Brimmer from Alley Bank because she did this at one of the MMA conferences a couple of years ago. She got on the stage, not unlike this, and brought her CFO on the stage and said to the audience, "You think you're pitching me? You're actually pitching her."
That's exactly right.
And here at CES many years ago, we kind of came up with the thought of the morphing of the CIO and the CMO. And that's happened, and it continues to happen. But that other morphing now is the CFO. And it's more than procurement, it's the CFO merging with the CMO because you're pitching to both because the ROI has got to be there. And I understand, so it's a different, you have to be selling differently, and you're selling to Susie now in the agency context, but if you were a brand, it's a whole different kettle of fish. How do you experience that with the CFO in the conversation?
Yeah, absolutely. That has certainly been in place for a while, where you're like, the C-suite that you have to now pitch to. But right now, what we're most excited about is at iHeart is a product that we have in beta called Audiograph. And the goal is, and what we're doing is making broadcast radio addressable, measurable, and programmatically transactable for the industry. So to be a leader in that space is exciting, but that really answers so much of what the industry demands. It level sets, okay, now we have data and now we can be measured. All of the conversations that we've had this week with clients and the feedback we're getting from the sales team is all about measurement. Like, unless we can measure, let's not even.
But even on that though, it's about the measurement piece of it. But what also that's answering the other challenge that CMOs have is there was this whole push to one-to-one. And what marketers have then realized is, wow, that's really problematic. I used to always say programmatic is going to soon become problematic because the one-to-one promise becomes really challenging because we think as marketers that we know our audience, but then we realize how much of the audience that we didn't understand was actually we could have engaged. So what I see from
You didn't grab the TAM.
100%.
Yeah.
And so the other circles of that audience, and I look at like what iHeart's doing and I go, there's a massive opportunity there for us to go back to and say, okay, now if you have this audience graph that I can go look at and say, hey, there's additional audiences there for me to go capture that become now, again, guaranteed humans. It's the same exact way that I look at from a sports perspective that give me this authenticity of where I can have passion and community. That's the reason why sports is so incredibly wonderful for us to capture because it gives me that sense of community and passion. That's where I think that it's the same thing that, iHeart is delivering. I think those are the things that marketers are really looking for.
Yeah. What's cool right now is that is being in this space, because I was at Amazon when we launched ROAS, and I'll never forget when we launched it. It was almost like the scariest day. You're like, once we do this, we're never going back. And we spent all this time in that one-to-one getting lower funnel. And now, we have a partnership with Amazon where the conversation's all around how do we get to that upper funnel, get that mass reach, get additional audiences or net new audiences. And so to be now, back top of the funnel is an exciting time.
I mean, it's a ladder you have to climb, but
Yeah.
when you go, but it's surprising, as you said, we're never going back, and here we are back. Susie, let's talk for a moment about, in the time we have left, sports creators and AI. I mean, those three things are kind of coming together at the door. And as you said, fans kind of simultaneously want hyper-personalization, but they want that communal experience. And how are you kind of navigating that intersection?
Well, it's really, for us, it's a fantastic combination because we have inside Publicis, we have Influential, which provides us an incredible opportunity because one, we have an amazing arsenal of creators that obviously that aligned with talent and aligned with athletes gives us a way better opportunity for us to connect that inside of a live. I think what you're going to start to see is that one, you can take, I think fans are looking for, again, the authenticity of being able to watch a live sport, but then still also, obviously, they're participating live with an adjacent experience, but they want more. And I think what you're going to start to see, this is where data is going to also provide an even more immersive experience than what we're seeing today. And I think that we're better positioned from a Publicis standpoint to do that because we have an incredible arsenal with Influential and the creators to be able to provide that. So that's where I think there's going to be, this is where I think AI is going to also play a massive role because if we put the right agents on top of that to be able to garner the right insights and everything else and be able to deploy it, in a real-time nature. You saw us make a pretty significant move with Genius Sports, as far as playing off of, and fan graphs. We're building out one of the largest fan graphs because obviously we sit in a great position with Epsilon and the data graph that we have already. And I think that's where I think, again, from our vantage point, we think that there's just massive opportunity in that regard.
It's so interesting, and Susie, I kind of want to end with something you said backstage because I'm going to quote you on this for quite some time. You were giving advice to somebody. I'll leave the person's name, Mitchell, out of this, but
Nobody will know who that is.
and what you told him, I think, is apocryphal and something that our whole audience needs to hear. When he was asking you about the entry point into the marketing and media business, the advice you gave him. So please share that advice.
Well, and I'll even make it bigger than just, so for those that don't know, Mitchell is my son, but I'll make it bigger than that. One, I have a huge passion for education because I think that when we all sitting in this audience we live and breathe an incredible industry. One, kind of going back to, we were talking about it too, talk about, guaranteed human. we aspire and love the passion of this community we have. The challenge is we have a generation who doesn't necessarily have that same passion. And so I do a lot of work with universities. And one of the things that when my son wanted to get into marketing, I said, that's fantastic, I want you to do that, but I'm gonna ask you first and foremost, you need to get into marketing through data.
There you go. You got to get into marketing through data. You got to get into everything through data. And Susie Deering, Lisa Coffey, I want to thank you for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having
I
us.
want to thank all of you for your attention.
Thank you.
I now have the privilege of introducing a wonderful friend and partner, Doug Rosen from Cadent, who's going to take over the stage for a few moments. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you. Good morning. I want to spend a few minutes talking about the intersection between fascination and friction and the opportunity we all have. Our industry, we've always been fascinated by what's new. We're so driven by growth and the curiosity to spark new opportunities. It's why we're all here at 8 a.m. on Wednesday ahead of a jam day. But we're like kids in the candy store. We're seeking what's new, the best tools, the new approaches. And when we think about that, we have this opportunity because if our fascination is unchecked, it really turns into potentially some diversion. So we have this choice. Do we drive for true innovation? Do we really look to how we can drive that fascination in meaningful ways? Or do we risk become distracted and letting friction take hold? Because right now in advertising, friction is rampant. Ads are over-delivered, experiences are disjointed, and while all of this is going on, our fascination, our attention is elsewhere. AI, it's having a moment right now. It's undeniable, the excitement is real, the potential is huge. I mean, last night, I went swimming in the fountains at Bellagio, apparently after going to the gym. And who knew Mr. Casson can sing reggae?
Here's a little song I wrote. You might want to sing it note for note. Don't worry and be happy.
All right, so as Shelley shared, all around CES, we're seeing all these AI advancements that might make us happy, maybe a little worried as consumers. But in advertising, it really seems that AI has been sounding more and more like hype, and that these days, artificial intelligence is a bit artificial. And so I'm not here to rebrand AI, but I am becoming more challenged by the fact that it's difficult to differentiate between what's actually intelligent and what's not. And that's why at Cadent, we really didn't want to layer AI onto existing technology. Instead, we rebuilt our entire platform from the ground up because we realized that the way you collect and structure and normalize and activate data is how you reduce friction in advertising. And that to be actually intelligent is to be able to see the actual signals that allow us to reduce that friction. Now, the unified Cadent platform allows us to put real intelligence at work with an open ecosystem connecting all of advertising. And it's based on a belief that AI should be yours, not ours. And so I want to bring this to life in 4 ways. First, addressing friction. Now, Cadent's always been there trying to deal with friction and fragmentation, starting in TV, now looking at the chaos of digital and CTV, and there's going to be friction when it comes to AI as well. Like skipping a stone across water, friction is the result of hops, and how you reduce the hops is how you solve the friction. And it's clear that siloed solutions, individual components, are not going to be where success lies. And if you think about it, a CDP is not going to talk to a DSP to an SSP, OMG, WTF. All of this is going to go to the wayside. And yes, while there are protocols and frameworks being rapidly announced, it's clear that unified technology will be the advantage. That horizontal technology like a Cadent and others will be how you reduce friction. Not only will it drive a lower ad tech tax, which is critical, it will create better performance and ultimately help drive horizontal orchestration. Now that orchestration comes to life with agents. I like to call them Cajents. It's a collection of micro opportunities, little things that do big things, like our audience discovery agent, which serves as your campaign planner, or a data orchestration agent, which is the producer, the business rules agent, which is a strategist, a scientist through a campaign health agent. And get this, each of these micro agents have to work with each other. They have to check in on each other like we do as humans. The second thing I want to call out in how to be actually intelligent is this notion of being foisted or fit for technology. I recognize that most ad tech providers are foisting their AI, their tech, their solutions onto advertisers and agencies. But most advertisers and agencies they're all different. So one of the things we wanted to do was to build a configurator that allows you to program the agent with the context of your business objective, like pacing being more important than budget or performance driving more critical outcomes. At the end of the day, it's how your role, your tone, your style allows this to be your AI. So it's not a black box that's doing it on behalf of you for somebody else. Next, AI, it's everywhere. And with that comes extensive data usage. Now, the challenge is right now, we're in this all-you-can-eat mindset. We can't get enough of it. But the cost of tokens, it's going to catch up to us. And nobody's really talking about it. The reason why is because we're fascinated for the latest LLM. We want to be able to have the best and the sharpest to drive all that hype. But you don't need a quantum computer to tell you the time. So one of the things we wanted to figure out is how do you build a smart routing system that determines which model is right at the right time. So it could be Gemini 3 Pro for some creative fatigue tasks that are really complex and require deep reasoning, or something very simple, you can just use Gemini 2 with Flashlight. This is going to help reduce not only the cost, but drive actual intelligence in how you think about AI long term. Last, how do you go from drift to decision? With so much friction in advertising, one of the things we wanted to really understand is how can you sharpen the time it takes to understand if a campaign's off track? So one agent we created allows us to go from drift to decision in just 12 minutes. Now, this is really complex, and we've been running this across a bunch of our large managed campaigns right now. I want to break this down. So an issue is predicted within minutes in real time, and a detailed report is then automatically generated to allow you to go and figure out how to fix it. From there, we have this fix in 2 minutes that's generated at a 98% confidence. A full fix is implemented within another 5 minutes with a 99% success rate. So in 12 minutes or less, we've been able to improve ROAS by 35%, and at the same time, save staff time, reduce advertising waste in order to drive, and I think Shelley did a good job of showing this at the beginning, how to bring and predict things ahead of them happening, this know before you go. What's actually intelligent is how we are bringing this all to life in a first that brings linear, CTV, digital, live, and now even YouTube. You can go linear to YouTube in one platform, in one audience with one view. So we have a choice to avoid fascination with shiny objects, to really spark real innovation, to address the friction and the fragmentation that's both today and tomorrow. Each of these choices are really hard. They require some good engineering, some good technology. That's why at Cadent, we've made our choice to be actually intelligent. So thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'll bring back Michael Casson.
Welcome again. And welcome, AC. Thank you for joining me.
My pleasure.
AC, again, in the spirit of time, I want to dive right in, and because we've got a lot to unpack this morning as we're talking about sort of resetting a marketing conversation. I think we as an industry have spent decades talking about marketing as the art of winning the hearts and minds of the consumers. But that frame, I think, feels a bit incomplete now. And you have reframed growth as winning hearts, minds, and machines. So, AC, what changed? I mean, I think we know, but what changed from your perspective? What was that? We've got to pay attention to the machines just as much as the humans.
Absolutely. Marketing and growth has always been about driving an emotional connection, making sure there's functional relevance, hearts and minds. But today, it's not just about reaching people. We have to reach the intermediary to reaching people, which are machines. Machines are social algorithms. They're the AI that we've been talking about. It's LLMs, it's agentic systems. Those influence people's choices and purchases increasingly more and more and more. We've seen the impact on social algorithms. We're seeing the impact in LLM. We're just beginning to see the impact on agentic commerce. So to win and grow with our brands, we must win and create demand and desire with those machines that are ultimately impacting purchase. So that's what's changed.
So AC, when you talk about kind of desire at scale, let me put air quotes around that. What do you think people would misunderstand as to how that's different from personalization at scale? Desire at scale, personalization at scale, words that we use, but
Yeah, first let's talk about what is desire at scale. Desire is creating the feeling that I just have to have that. And in the past, desire was limited to luxury. You create desire and you don't fulfill it. You do that for a few. But this digital and AI age has now democratized desire. We can want and rule India things that people didn't have access to. So to win in this world, we have to elevate our brands and our brand's experience to be desirable. And we can do that now at scale. What people misunderstand, and you're asking about personalization, is while everything is getting disrupted, I say everything and nothing is changing. The fundamentals of growth and brand building is all about making sure your brand matters, and you make sure your brand matters by creating desire and demand for your brand. That doesn't change. That's always been our job. But what has changed is how we do that. We no longer can just do brand push. You all know that, because we'll be speaking into an echo chamber. Now we have to make sure our brand matters enough so other people are communicating our brands and our products to other people on our behalf. Those are creators who are recommending. Those are other people or users who user-generated content, and those are machines.
And AC, I can't not take the moment to say something. So it says here C-Space, but C-Space was founded on the premise of something called Brand Matters that we created many, many years ago. And so we are on a C-Space stage, but it really was a Brand Matters stage, so it's appropriate. And I will say this as the appropriate shout out to Unilever. Unilever was the first client partner that understood the journey the way that you did. And I will tell that story quickly because we don't have all the time. But that first journey to Brand Matters, what Unilever did that was unusual, they brought the CTO, and I said this in the earlier conversation about the role of the CTO or CIO, and Unilever was literally the first company that on a marketing journey brought their CTO, because that's when we realized early on of what I said earlier, the marketer is going to be making more technology decisions, and we are having a technology discussion here as much as anything else. And the CTO is going to make more marketing decisions. And so it's just funny when you said Brand Matters, I had to give a little historical perspective.
Some things change and some things don't.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Still our role.
Brand still matters at the end of the day.
And how in this dynamic technical world, we make sure our brand matters, we have to use technology to do that. And in Shelley's earlier talk, who gets that chat? Who gets that chat today? We can't work in silos. We have to work together on behalf of fulfilling the consumer promise and driving our brand.
It's interesting because retailers have always had the lead role in shaping choice. And now machines do as well. So it's interesting that you said machines aren't the goal, they're the conduit. But if you've got to activate the conduit in the right way, you have to interact with the machine in the right way. And it goes back to the prompt and it goes back to everything we were talking about earlier. But how should leaders think about machines as an audience? Because that is an audience now.
Yeah, that's exactly how I think about it. The same way the retailer is an audience, the retailer in my business, it's not direct to consumer. The retailer shapes what consumers desire based on placement, what selection there is, how much they promote you. That still is a factor, and machines do the same. We just talked about zero-touch search. machines are deciding what we choose. So we think about the machine as an audience, but it's an intermediary. Until machines start using body wash or start eating food, at the end of the day, the machine has to deliver what people want. So what we have to do is engineer how we crack the machines to deliver and fulfill what consumers desire.
So it's so interesting you said that, AC, because I think back to a very fortunate moment for me when I had the opportunity to hear Steve Jobs speak only once. But when he did, he talked about the kind of impetus for iTunes. And he said, look, I realized that I wanted to sell music directly to AC, not to Tower Records or HMV or some Virgin mega store. I want to sell to AC. And that was the idea of not only unbundling a single from an album, but that whole concept was based on what you just said. I'm going to go direct. And it's interesting, you're looking at it the same way. And I think back to when Paul Pullman was your chairman at Unilever, and he said something to me about 20 years ago at a lunch. He said, Michael, do we need to pay attention to these literally, he might shoot me for saying this, for these friendsters, for these, these facesters, Facebook, and this was about 20 years ago. I said, well, Paul, I would submit to you that I think the number is back then, Unilever touches 1 billion consumers a day back then. Today, that number is probably...
Now it's 3.5 billion.
Yeah, now, and I say, that was back, this 20 years ago, maybe it was like 1.6 billion people a day touched a Unilever product. I said, the answer to your question is yes, you need to pay attention to these social platforms. I don't know that I would have said social platforms back then, but to these platforms, because you now have a chance to do something you never did, which is talk to those 1.6 billion people directly. So yeah, you have to. And that's where we are. Now we're adding 3.6 billion or whatever number and the machines.
The thing is, what it takes to build a brand today, we have to unlock control. But at the same time, we need crystal clarity of what our brand is. To manage chaos, you need a plan. So when you have people who need to communicate and tell stories on your behalf, the clarity of the brand story, what communities you want to engage in, what matters to machines, feeding the machines with the knowledge that they need to recommend you in your area of importance, driving attention and getting that attention and through social algorithms that go back to your brand, still needs to be architected. So Unilever have created something called the brand verse that creates that clarity. What is central? For a Dove, it is making beauty a source of joy and not hassle or something that makes you unconfident. Each of our brands, for Vaseline, it's all about healing and health, and it's about trust, not hype. Being very clear on what audiences you want to connect with that are human, and then what messages you want to generate to give to LLMs. So that's how, in our many-to-many model, you have to give it up, but you create boundaries to make sure your brand is still experienced. That's what creates the trust and makes the most of building the brand in this new dynamic.
So as you've described that, AC, managing the LLMs is kind of forcing almost a new way to think about media. It harkens back to me, something I learned in law school about leading the witness. You want to make sure you're feeding the LLM, you're leading the witness to be making recommendations the way you want them made. Maybe that's a bad analogy, but I think it's probably not.
I actually think it's a good analogy because, witnesses, you can't control them. But, all the LLMs.
Well, but you're trained as a lawyer to never ask a question to which you don't know the answer.
And with the LLMs, their models are fed by different things. The share of model. You see what drives chat will be different than what drives Claude, but you've got to sort out where do they get their information from. And, I've been thinking about once you think you have a model in this dynamic age, it's going to change. But we've been thinking about knowledge media, interest media, and brand media. And knowledge media is more important. Those are things like hard facts, so you can drive consistency, the old PR, to make sure you're recommended in editorial, so that when the LLM goes and searches, it sees consistent information about your product. where interest media is what drives engagement and that will help with those social algorithms to make sure people have passion. And that's expanding. We were moving more to interest, but knowledge is also important. So yes, leading the witness is, I think, a good relevant example.
There you go. Well, speaking of that, AC, there's a lot of noise certainly around this show, but in general, about AI doing everything. You've been pretty clear, though, I think, in your thinking and in your statements that AI belongs in the back office, not in the front office. And I made that analogy years ago to procurement. I looked at it as an orchestra, and I said, if the marketing organization is an orchestra, procurement shouldn't be in the first chair violin, but they should be in the string section, but not first chair violin. First chair violin still needs to be a marketer. So I guess my question is, why is that so important in this context?
It is so critical. Again, Shelley talked about trust. The brand is a trust mark. And so the brand, and expressed through human creativity, is what people will connect with, particularly in terms of our content. But what's amazing and exciting about AI, it allows us to scale that and solve problems. If I think about one of our campaigns we're super proud of, Vaseline Verified, that has driven our business tremendously and did very well at Cannes. We've used AI in the back office to analyze 3.5 million uses and hacks for Vaseline and identify which hacks we feel good about, that people can feel safe using, and which hacks are questionable. We use all that intelligence, that's AI in the back office, to help us create this idea of the trust mark in Vaseline Verified. That was not created by AI, that was created from human. And then we scaled that. And then we found creators, we use AI to find the affinity of the creators, and then we use that and then convert that to commerce by making sure creators are set up on TikTok shops. You know, we got 48% growth behind that campaign, and we keep running it. It's an always-on campaign because of that. The front office is the human creativity. I can give a number of examples. Another is, Dove changed the compliment. We use AI to analyze where are the sources of tension between young girls feeling unconfident, which we know that young girls in school, they're taught they should value being beautiful more than being strong and smart. And it takes away sometimes from their engagement in school. So we identify those situations through AI that will resonate most with girls and parents. And then we use the human creativity to depict those and tell stories about them.
So AC, in closing, I think Seth Matlins is out in the audience. I saw him earlier. Seth asked me a question on a panel at a conference a few years ago that I love and I still rely on because it was provocative. And the question was, what does the CEO not know about the role of the CMO? And that is ever more important today. As you look at this, what CMO skills matter most now? Because as you were just describing the last part of this conversation, none of that sounded like traditional marketing gobbledygook. I'm sorry to say that, but it wasn't. It was an entirely different plane. It's a different skill set.
Yeah, I like thinking about a provocation I got, I think from Google a couple years ago, is the CMO is now the change management officer. It is the one that helps navigate the dynamism that we're in, understanding with nuance what changes and what remains the same. I feel like that's my job every day. And in that, it has the opportunity to identify what the growth drivers are, and it's moved beyond the traditional marketing function and bring all the functions to the table to manage and drive growth in this time. So the two things I would say is change management and navigating what stays the same and what changes, creating desire, demand, mattering for your brand. That's what drives the business. That stays the same. What needs to change, the change management around that, and then orchestrating the team that will deliver that. Supply chain, finance, R&D. Those are the two things I'd say.
Well, I can't think of a better way to end that conversation than with change management officer. That's a great one, AC. You'll hear that again. AC, thank you so much, and thank you all for joining us.
Thank you, Michael. Got some water.
And now I'm not going to get off before I do my next job, which is to introduce another very good friend and partner, Harry Kargman.
Thanks, Michael. So I'm thrilled to be here today with Benoit Viterre, who's the Chief Media Officer of Liquid Death. But before we begin, let me first thank Shelley and Michael, because they really set the stage today. You've heard it here today. AI without a harness will fail. And this illuminates the path forward for all of us. We call this the applied AI era. That is critical, applied AI. Kargo has built the first AI platform that is applied, that solves the challenges with workflow, creative approvals, media strategy, planning, buying, and most importantly, real-time optimization and measuring outcomes. We're announcing today the launch of Kera at Kera.ai. It's our agentic AI creative and media buying platform built for the Kargo era. But I was going to show you a demo of that platform today, but Shelley told me that if I do that, you would all kill me, and he would certainly kill me. So instead, I have the Chief Marketing Officer of Liquid Death with a very awesome French accent, who will share with you what he shared with me almost a year ago. How do you build a platform for media in today's age? So I thought we'd get into it and ask a couple questions about what you shared with me about a year ago and what we built. So let's talk about agentic buying. As AI becomes more agentic, how do you see its ability to make real-time decisions, not just report on them, but reshape the future of digital advertising?
Yeah, I mean, it's a super exciting time. For me, as probably people have heard me say that before, I cannot just stand on the very unique metric, for example, ROAS. I know a few people on stage talk about it before. And so I need to be able to optimize towards what I really care about. In that case, new to brand, household penetration. And those days, if you want to do that, it's a lot of manual work. It's a lot of data ingestion. It's a lot of thinking, human being, strategizing around this. I need that to be done faster, better, and not relying on a platform to tell me what to do. Meaning if I buy on a given platform, they're obviously going to tell me, hey, do this so you can spend more money with me. No, I need to be able to make that call, but I need to make that call fast. And I believe AI is going to get us there.
So talk about your creative philosophy. You've said nothing can touch the Liquid Death brand. You have to do it on instinct. How does AI, with all of its creative capabilities, interact with that philosophy?
Yeah, AI will not touch Liquid Death creative. Like, we have that covered. We believe that the edge on the creative side comes from human beings, not from an LLM that is going to create that ad for us. Though, when that piece of creative has been created, and I need, as a media guy, go out there and buy inventory to get in front of as many people as I can, I need 250, 300 different formats of that creative. And now, if I have a designer to do that, it's very expensive and it takes a lot of time. And sometimes it's not perfect, pixel perfect the way it should be. Now, I think that's where, again, agents and AI can come in and make that very efficient. So for us, on the creative side, it's all about efficiency. It's all about getting in as many inventory placements as we can. Right away, it says, hey, we're going to settle on 30 different ad sizes because that's what we can do right now, and then we'll figure out the rest later. So that's something that we're leaning in heavy, that I told you we need, and that obviously you delivered on, but things that I'm excited about.
We're super excited about solving that problem for you. Now, we talked also about real estate and inventory, finding the right places for Liquid Death in exactly the right moment. Systems are constantly learning. They're going to uncover new ideas. How do you think about that in terms of your media buying practices, since all the traditional stuff may be oversaturated at this point?
Yeah, I mean, for everything we do with the brand, it's all about what is not expected. And what is not expected can come from the creative team, but come from also from all the testing and things that we run into, that we stumble upon. Most of the best thing that we get to are randomly run into it. And how do you get that is by getting in front of a lot of different permutation of things. And it's a permutation of creative, it's a permutation of audience, it's a permutation of placements. And how can you get all those permutations happen in order to find them and stumble upon them without knowing really what it's going to be? And that's where I think, again, a platform and AI plugged into this can get us to like, oh shit, I didn't expect that. Well, now let's lean into that. And that's, again, something that I'm really looking for that we already happened recently and we keep on going with.
And do you see that as a challenger brand? Because you are just owning the market for water. It's pretty amazing.
I hope so.
Do you see that as the way that you're going to break through by finding new placements and new capabilities through AI that basically the traditional media model will not find?
I think so. I mean, right now, and not to share too much, but I'm looking at all those live sports moments. Like, how can I capture some of those exciting, actually unexpected one? Let's go football right now. We're close to the Super Bowl. Can I show up when actually there's a fumble? Like, that would be fun. That would probably be something that, Liquid Death will fit well. Well, I don't know. But can AI help me to get in there? Can I test that? Right? Not obviously in the Super Bowl. NFL may not be too thrilled about this, but I can test that somewhere else and see if that's an opportunity. Yeah, so yes, I'm excited about this.
I call it the transformation moment. When you think about all the points that you can lean into with AI, autonomous buying, new surfaces, better feedback loops, how do you see that fundamentally changing how Liquid Death approaches the market? Like, when you see all of these pieces come together, how do you see that changing your go-to-market going forward in 2026, 2027?
For me, it's back to my roots. It's the entrepreneurship. It's the lean and mean. It is going to get me to that point. It's not so many people and having to lean on agencies and all of that. It's bring it all in-house in a tiny team that is just going to nail it. And so I'm excited about that because that's how we win. It's not with a team of 300 people with 5 layers of decision-making that you win. It's moving fast with a tiny team that gets the data fast.
So you shared with me that you're different from most brands at your size and scale in that you don't have an agency.
No.
And you're looking for a platform that's going to help you with media buying, media planning, activation, the rulemaking. How do you see AI transforming the amount of resources that you're going to need to use to do something at massive scale that people are using, hundreds of people to do?
And I would say resources here are more dollars. It's less dollars spent on inefficient stuff, right? And so more dollars going into media that will work for us rather than on things that don't require that much resources, could be done automatically, a lot of automation. So that's what I'm looking for. And I think we're getting really close to that.
Tell me about your experience with Kara. As you've seen the platform, looked at the platform, how have you seen that as the future of one of the ways that you'll go about doing your business?
Well, for me, it's this beautiful thing where you can layer on top of all those platforms, be able to ask what I need to do, get it done fast, and get the feedback loop really fast without having to send 35 different Slacks, follow up 40 times, and wait for a report through an Excel spreadsheet. So that's what I've seen. Obviously, I talked to you a lot about what I need. So I think there's going to be a lot that we're going to see unfolding over the next months and years. But this is so in the right direction right now. And that's, we're leaning in heavy.
Well, we're out of time. In fact, I have a minute left. And I just wanted to thank you for leaning in and challenging the industry with us and creating something that I think will change how programmatic. I don't know that programmatic as it exists today will even exist a year from now. And I'm excited to work with you and others in terms of bringing this vision to market.
Same. Thank you.
It's going to be awesome.
Thank you, guys.
You guys hear me okay? Now you can. This is the magic of audio. Welcome, everybody, back. It's good. Shakir, how are you? You're good?
Fantastic.
Thank you for joining. So I have to start with a little bit of personally self-deprecating humor. A couple of years ago, Holidays Are Coming came out, the first AI spot that I had seen by a major advertiser. And I wrote a scathing critique about using AI and using AI responsibly and what authenticity meant, like everything wrong you could possibly say. except I thought I was right at the time. And you know me, I like to say what I like to say. So then Shakir and I happened upon one another in a meeting. And Shakir is such a gentleman, he didn't take me out to the woodshed and have me shot. And I said to him, you know, when it came up in conversation, I said, so, yeah, holidays are coming. And he stopped me in a very polite way and said,
it is the highest tested ad of that particular year.
The highest tested ad. I'm like, oops. So not only was that the highest tested ad, but why don't you take everybody through not only what that year's, but this year's holidays are coming ad, which is a slightly different one. Also, the interweb got a little crazy and in your face, but once again, this is the evolution of AI. And I'd love to talk a little bit about how you're thinking about creative, how you're thinking about distribution, how you're thinking about reaching a world where you're the probably most world famous top of funnel advertiser in the history of advertising, and how weird it is now as the funnel has collapsed.
Sure. So I'm going to share with you what I shared with Shelly on the process that we went through. So there's been a lot of write-ups, including Shelly's, on the advertising. We didn't start with, let's use AI to make an ad. We wanted to make a piece of advertising. We wanted to tell a story of Coca-Cola during Christmas using perhaps AI if AI needed to be used. So that's a big difference between the two. And we were very clear right at the beginning that we would, if consumers love it, we will use it. If consumers don't like it, we'll trash it. But what's not an option is now to use all the capability and technology that is coming in and learn. So it started as a learning experiment versus trying to prove to the world that we can make an ad using 100% using AI. The first sort of discussions happened in July 2024. In August, we couldn't figure out how to make the wheels move of the trucks that were going through. By September, we can get the wheels to move. And there were so many iterations that we went through in the process. And I emphasize that because one of the most used terms like this year or last year was AI slop. And what people don't realize that it still took us about 4 months to perfect that piece of advertising. So there's still craft needed on it. There's still a lot of work that goes on. The cost goes down substantially. So that is an advantage. You can control a lot more variables. We were able to show the truck going into Atlanta and place media in Atlanta versus a truck going to New York and placing media in New York. That level of customization would have costed a lot more in the past and not that efficient. We can do that. But eventually, we have a very high bar on testing our advertising. No advertising sort of goes to air if it doesn't pass that bar. And this was the best tested ad of 2024. And based on that learning, because it worked, and not only tested well, but we have robust protocols on post-learning, on what happened to our equity measures after the ad was aired. Based on the learning of 2024, we decided to repeat the experiment again in 2025. By that time, the technology had exponentially changed.
Yes.
And that has been our learning journey, that by sitting still and not doing anything, we would have missed all the learnings that we went through, apart from the positive impact on the business, which is the most important thing. The learning journey was great, but the business has to grow, and thankfully it did in the process.
So if you can share with the audience, the spot itself, some of the controversy from the audience, the very vocal Twittersphere, if you will, they were upset about the lack of emotion and in the animated ad or in the AI animated ad, and yet these ads tested well and they drove growth. So there's a huge disconnect between whoever was out there, including me originally, talking trash about it and what really happened. So as a marketer in a marketing organization where you guys have your ear to the ground all the time, how did you, or did it even matter, how did you deal with the pushback from that vocal minority, and also did that have any impact in the way the corporate universe came down on you or didn't, or you're like, yeah, no, we're good. Like what was the day-to-day problematics, of that criticism, if you will?
So sort of two spaces in which we played between 24 and 25. There's a definition of brand we use internally, that a brand is a promise wrapped in an experience inside a memory. A brand is a promise wrapped in experience inside a memory. It's a twist on a quote from Churchill on Russia.
Yes.
So we use that. So it's all about memories. So therefore, when we do the testing sort of captures, does it hit your emotions? Does it create a memory? So therefore, emotions is important. And yes, people may love the piece of creative, but if it's not getting them to consume a Coke or buy a second Coke, then it's not good advertising.
Right.
My job is not to entertain people. My job is to grow our business. So it did both. So we knew from our testing that it worked. We knew from our post data that it worked. This year again, when we did it, we went through the same process. The advertising consumers gave us the best possible marks on that advertising. But this year we did something else. We said, well, interestingly, there's still a lot of critique on this. Maybe let's go super hard on ourselves. So after pre-testing, we did post-testing. And we found out that this is real number, less than 0.4% of people have any issue which is significant with that piece of advertising. So 99.96% either like it, love it, or love it very, very much. Now, Shelly, I don't know of any ad, book, movie, dramas, concept that would have 100% approval.
I don't think you could get that many people to think it was fun to take a $10 bill for $5.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
So I would want that to be 100% still, but I can live with 0.4%.
Yeah, I can see that. So there's been a giant change in the way marketers are forced to look at marketing. You've seen the top of the funnel, actually the whole funnel collapse in different ways depending on the market. Certainly advertisers who depend deeply on awareness and the behavioral economics of recency and availability, that is super complex. And then with the advent of all of these new AI-infused distribution channels, this gets that much more complicated. How's Coca-Cola thinking about that? How are you guys, if you are, reorganizing or not reorganizing around these new first principles?
So you know the answers.
I do.
So in full transparency, in January of 2024, my knowledge of AI was probably 0.4 of that 0.4 on a 10-point scale. And then myself and my boss, we started working with Shelly. We connect every 14 days, and Shelly sort of rattled our brains around many, many things.
I wasn't fishing for that compliment, but thanks. That's really sweet.
So with that period of time, with the knowledge that we have been gaining, we realized that we are not designed to excel in the world that is coming in. And we are either going to be irrelevant or less relevant or possibly obsolete if we don't self-implode ourselves. So I think we started working with you, Shelly, around February, March. Yes. Around April, like after the first 4 sessions, it was, pardon my French, a holy shit moment for us to say that we got to do something different. And we started working, we started to craft a strategy where marketing is a principle, AI is a principle in marketing and it's not a tool. That was a fundamental shift that we pushed for. And we started to figure out if that's the strategy, how do we design our structure to the strategy? And just this December, we announced a very significant shift and change in the entire marketing design and the organization in Coca-Cola in North America. And that has led to new capabilities, new verticals. So for example, we are creating for the first time a data vertical within marketing to ensure that there are truly clean rooms where all data is coming in, both external and internal. Data was scattered in different places within the organization, and that allows us a major competitive advantage in terms of understanding and moving with the speed of consumers. The second big shift is we are creating a new vertical called MarTech, which used to be marketing operations, to ensure that tech is helping us, is becoming an enabler for our marketing execution. It used to be just marketing operation, which was a process-driven sort of structure, versus now it is MarTech or AI-enabled. Actually, at 6:30 this morning, we announced our new leader for that organization, who's sitting somewhere in the room right now. And the third big shift that we made was we created a whole new architecture on creative called Creative Technologist. And the learning was this, that as a CPG company, we do a lot of work on point of sale material, advertising that you would see on the billboard. Historically, that would go through classical creative structures, briefs, which would take months at the minimum and at better high cost. And now with the technology, we are able to do this at almost at a zero cost and at a speed which is unimaginable. So it is allowing us to move into the marketplace at an unprecedented speed. So it's a monumental shift within marketing in Coca-Cola. And we're excited because we needed to be ready for 2026, which is a World Cup year for us, and then Olympics, which is coming up in 2028. So we're getting ready and prepared.
Well, that sounds like a mic drop moment to me. Ladies and gentlemen, Shakir Moen from Coca-Cola. I'm going to stand up for a second. Just join me here. So look, this actually concludes our Shelley Palmer Innovation Series breakfast presented by 3C and the ANA. I want to thank Michael Casson and Michael Donnelly and all of you for coming here today. CES is my favorite time of year. I know you guys had to get up super early in the morning. I truly, truly appreciate you doing so. Please put your hands on keyboard every day, lead from the front, because you guys, honestly, can be the architects of the future you want to live in. It's an adult responsibility we all have. So there's going to be AI regulation talked about this year in ways we've never talked about it. Needs for new power we've never had before. Ladies and gentlemen, you have to weigh in. Please do. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Thank you.